All right, welcome back. We'd like to welcome in the new head coach of the New Mexico Lobos. He is Eric Olen. Eric, welcome. What do you think your reaction would have been 5 years ago if somebody said, you know what, in 5 years, you're going to be the head coach of New Mexico?
Oh wow, I would have felt like we had a pretty good transition there in the in that Division 1 period, and yeah, no, I mean I feel really fortunate the way things have worked out, and really excited to be in the position I'm in now. So appreciate all the people who helped us get here, and yeah, looking forward to what's next.
Now, you've been in Southern California working for 21 years. I know you've only been away right now for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, but what's it been like to be away from SoCal at the start?
Yeah, I mean it's been different. Obviously, a big adjustment for me and my family, but it's exciting. I think we're looking forward to this next step and this next challenge, and I've really enjoyed the time in Albuquerque. I am looking forward to have my family move out and not be living out of the hotel room. But you know, in terms of New Mexico and all the things there, and it's been it's exceeded my expectations. I couldn't be happier about how things have played out.
Now, UC San Diego was only in Division 1 for 5 years when you left, but you won 30 games last season and went to the NCAA tournament. How did you flip that program?
I think it's just we had the right guys in the locker room. We had guys who cared about winning, who cared about each other, played unselfishly. It's funny, that team that won 30 games is probably a team that had the most individual accolades that I've sort of been a part of, and it was the most unselfish team. So it's kind of funny how that works out. But we just kept getting a little bit better. I think we started to understand, the Big West as a conference after being in it for a couple years, and how we could fit, and what maybe our recipe was in that league. And as we started to figure that out and lean into that, we made progress. And we had some guys who stayed. We were able to return some really good players. I think that's an important part of this at any level is trying to find some retention. So yeah, we had a kind of confluence of events that ended up in kind of a special team, and we had a great season last year.
Coaches I've found always remember losses a lot more than wins. I'm curious, now that you've had, a couple of months to digest it, when you look back on last season, do you remember the 30 wins or do you remember the near missed opportunity against Michigan in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think a lot more about the losses for sure. I think that's consistent. I had we had a Division 1 team, or I'm sorry, a Division 2 team in 1920 that was 30-1, and basically the one loss is all I remember about that season. But yeah, no, I thought we felt like, I mean, Michigan's a great team. They're really well coached, fantastic players, but we felt like we had some advantages in that matchup. I thought we got off to a little bit of a slow start, and got a little unlucky on a couple things, and still had a chance to win. So really, I think when you zoom out, you can kind of appreciate the season as a whole, and what we accomplished. And um, some of those guys, talking to the players too, like afterwards, and I think players do a much better job than coaches about some of that perspective of
Yeah.
the wins and losses. And I think they, their perspective of feeling like, you know, kind of living out a dream of playing in the NCAA tournament. A lot of those guys coming from Division 2, who maybe at stages of their career didn't think that was ever going to be an option for them. That part's really rewarding, and I can take that part away. But like when I think about the season and I go back to the games, like, yeah, I have a hard time not focusing on the losses and what we could have done differently.
And now you obviously have to focus on what's ahead at New Mexico because that's your next task. I'm curious. I know you haven't coached a game yet with the Lobos, but how does managing a Big West program compare to managing a Mountain West program?
Well, we'll get on the court here in a few weeks in the summer, but um, the basketball is basketball. So I think that part is all going to translate for us. I think the biggest adjustments for me personally is just kind of the interest in the program, the support of the fan base, the enthusiasm of the fan base. It's different there. Lobo Nation is rabid, and they're fired up for what we're going to do, and how we're going to build it, and they're so just sort of understanding that and managing that. And there's just more media requests. There's more kind of time demands outside of the basketball that I've already felt just in the time that I've been there. That'll be specific to me, an adjustment for me personally. But I think when we get on the court, the basketball part will be very similar.
Now, one of the things that drew people into UC San Diego last season was obviously your unique style of play. You were a really fun watch on offense. I'm curious, when you were crafting your own career as a head coach, whose styles did you want to pattern your teams after?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that we've stolen from all kinds of people, and I think that's what, all right, like everybody's does that. And,
Yeah.
I think that we've done a pretty good job of stealing the things that we felt like would really help us and apply specifically to us. And so, there's like iterations of it, right? It's constantly evolving. We're constantly changing and stealing from other people and looking for different ideas. And then you have turnover on your staff and people bring different ideas. And I think the key to all that is just trying to be flexible and adaptable year to year and not just get stuck on any one specific thing. And I think one of the things that we did really well at UC San Diego was really trying to tailor things to our best players and what they did really well, and really start with, okay, if these are going to be our highest usage players, how do we put them in position to be successful? So I think if you look at each iteration, our teams are going to look a little differently based on who the players are. Last year's team was a lot of fun. That started with kind of Niwa Tate Jones and Tyler McGuy in terms of the offensive focus and what do they do really well. They both had kind of unique games, so that made us a little bit unique in how we played. And it was a really fun team, and we just had really smart, self-aware guys who shared the basketball and kind of understood strengths and weaknesses. But I think like over the years we've stolen from everybody, right? John Beeline's one that comes to mind when they're doing the two-guard stuff at Michigan. We did that for a little while. We've still have some of the concepts, but we've changed a lot. You have Bob Ritchie, and before that, Nico Nedved at Furman, who had some concepts that we stole. And, so we steal from everybody. And, the NBA, Europe, anywhere we can find a good idea, we're happy to steal it.
And I'm sure a lot of people were stealing from you last season. And, I'm curious about just the emotional toll of all this when you're going through a job as a mid-major head coach. You have a 30-win season. You have to deal with coaching in a one-bid league, even though the Big West was a great conference. Then you play Michigan to the wire. You're a bucket or two away. And then you find out that New Mexico is interested in speaking with you. I'm curious, what was that emotional roller coaster like?
Yeah, it was a different experience for me. Like I hadn't been through that process. I was at UC San Diego for 21 seasons, the last 12 as a head coach. And, as we were building it up from Division II to Division I, there weren't a lot of people who were banging down my door, so that was all unique for me. I think that I relied really heavily on my staff. Like those guys were amazing in terms of the amount of work and things that they took off of my plate, where I was able to focus on our team and still be able to kind of manage some of the other things that were coming from the outside as we were having a good season. Because it's not like it just all happened at once. Like it was sort of gradually building, and you could feel that, on my side, you could kind of feel the interest from places building, and that there might be some opportunity at the end of it. But it's nice because you go in the locker room and you just talk to your team about, hey, we got to focus on things that we can control and
right.
keep our priorities where they are. And it's kind of like, well, as I'm saying it, it's a nice reminder for me of, hey, I need to do the same things and make sure that I'm giving them my full attention when it's required, and try to make sure that we're able to still accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And I tell our players all the time, right? Like the best thing they can do for themselves individually is help our team find its best basketball. And I think that's true for coaches, right? Like if our team plays good basketball, then any kind of results or outcomes from that will be better.
What's the impression so far of the roster you've put together in New Mexico?
I'm excited. I think it'll be a different challenge for me again. We will only have one player on that roster that has played for me. We had a second who was on our team but was injured and didn't play on the court. But so brand new, starting from scratch. But I like the group we put together. I think we're long. I think we're athletic. I think we have a chance to be an excellent defensive team with a lot of defensive disruption and playmaking on that side of the ball. I think we got smart guys who can make a lot of plays offensively, and hopefully we can play with a little pace, keep the floor spread, and put pressure on the basket. All kind of the things that we always want to do. But I think we have the tools to be a good team. I think the test for us will be how we kind of come together as a group. Can we be a connected team? Can we share the basketball? Can we make good decisions? Can we kind of understand each other's strengths and weaknesses at a level that allow us to play great basketball? But I think we have the physical tools and the ability to play really good basketball on a consistent basis.
Now, the Mountain West, for the past couple of years has been a multi-bid league. We're going to see what happens, obviously, after the upcoming season when the league goes into a different rendition. But what is it like after what you just endured at UC San Diego to have a chance to compete in a multi-bid conference, at least for the upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exciting. I think that's part of my interest in New Mexico and this position was kind of moving up to a higher level where you get more chances at it. Obviously we were fortunate. We were the one to get the bid last year out of the Big West. But it just takes one night to kind of for all that to go away, and I think about UC Irvine, which is another really terrific team in our league last year. And they had a similar season to us and, a couple games here and there, and we could be in very different situations there. So, there's a lot of pressure in that one bid league, and there's not a lot of room for error. I felt like we had, a quality team that could have been an at-large had we not, right? But if you think about that, and again thinking about the losses, we had a bad night in November and didn't play well. We lost to Seattle at home, and essentially, I think that probably sealed it for us.
Right.
Like in retrospect, I don't think we would have gotten the at-large like the way things played out, and it was just one bad night at the very beginning in our fourth game of the season that essentially would have eliminated us, and you have zero room for error from there. So have a little room for error, allow your team to grow, being able to, have teams in your conference that are quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities. I think it just allows you to progress your team a little more naturally and not have to like sweat, one bad result early in the year that you just can never recover from.
Well, you used the term at large there in one of your responses, which is a tremendous transition because the goal now, in addition to putting together a quality roster, is to put together the chance to have an at-large resume. What little snippets can you share of New Mexico's non-conference schedule for the upcoming season?
Yeah, well, it's still a work in progress. When taking over late, you always got a lot of work to do on the schedule. So we're working on that. But we do have some great opportunities in the non-conference. We're playing in the Hall of Fame event in Kansas City with Nebraska, Kansas State, and Mississippi State. So that's a tremendous opportunity for us. We have a return game to VCU, who obviously they have some turnover there as well, but is traditionally a super strong program. And I know Coach Martelli will have them ready to go and have another great team there. So I think those are some of the kind of quad 1 and 2 opportunities that we have in the non-conference that we're excited about.
Final thing, Eric, regardless of the wins and the losses, what are the biggest things you want to accomplish in your first season at New Mexico?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to just kind of set the tone for how we do our business, how we take care of our business, right? And what we do on a daily basis. Because that's the stuff that will dictate the wins and the losses. Everybody sees what happens when the lights are on and the results get posted. But that's all a byproduct of the work that comes before. And so I think the biggest thing for us is sort of just setting the standards and creating the habits that we need to be successful. And and hopefully that will build towards the results. I think we've always been a process driven, we want to be process driven in how we do it. And so I think it's that part, right? Like we want to win every game we play. Like we expect to be competitive and have a high level team from the start, but it's also about building a foundation from habits and right. We're not taking over a program that was struggling, right? Like
Right.
we're taking over the Mountain West regular season championship program here. So the bar is really high, but we still have to develop our own standards and habits that will allow us to compete at that level consistently. So I think that's the most important part for us.
Well, Eric, it's going to be a lot of fun to cover. Appreciate a couple minutes. Congratulations on the job and all your success, and look forward to staying connected along the way.
Thanks a lot, John. I appreciate you having me on.
You got it. That is New Mexico head coach Eric Olen. We will be back after this.